بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is Imam Zaid Shakir, and alhamdulillah, I was blessed with Islam in 1977. It was a very good year, and I grew up in between Atlanta, Georgia, and New Britain, Connecticut, primarily. I was born in Berkeley, California, though my father was in the Navy at the time. When he finished his service, he stayed out there for a few years. I have siblings that were born in San Diego, siblings that were born in, I think I was the only one born in Berkeley, siblings that were born in Michigan. So after he finished his time in the Bay, he returned to his home in Michigan. And then my parents broke up. My mother went back to Georgia, where her roots are in Hamilton County, Georgia, one of 13 children, but she subsequently, and most of the family, moved to Atlanta. So we spent time there, I think, from nursery school, I can remember, until the end of third grade. And then we moved up north to Connecticut, Pinnacle Heights housing project, close to Hartford, Connecticut, in New Britain. My parents then broke up for good, so my mother was raising her 7 children all by herself. And alhamdulillah, make a long story short, I converted to Islam in 1977 while serving in the U.S. Air Force. I got out, I went to college, I got some knowledge, and then eventually ended up overseas studying, first in Syria and then briefly in Morocco, and went back to New Haven, Connecticut, where most of my siblings had moved. At that time, we started a masjid. We got busy with the dawah at Masjid al-Islam in New Haven, Connecticut, and went overseas to study, came back to New Haven for almost 2 years, and then moved out to Zaytuna Institute to assist in the work going on there, and that eventually became Zaytuna College. And so there it is, and here I am, and we pray that Allah gives everyone tawfiq in all of their righteous deeds and endeavors.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shakir, and the same, I met Imam Zaid while I was serving in the United States Air Force, and as he just mentioned, we became Muslim in 1977, which was a very good year in that many of the leading Muslim scholars and some activists today also converted at that time. And we, over the years, met one another. So it's just really ironic that this has happened. And number two, I grew up first of all, I was born in Manhattan, New York. And then I grew up in New York. And we ended up in Springfield Gardens, Queens, and in Long Island. I have 2 brothers. To this day, I still am the only Muslim in my family, but that's okay. They're very supportive and understanding. My mother divorced while we were very young, so again, I grew up without, a father, which means I'm an orphan. But that's okay as well, because Allah is the best of plans and everything. Islam was a leading force in my life to help me overcome that pain and and lack of having father leadership in the home. But mashallah, we managed. Secondly, same as Imam Zaid just mentioned, we finished our education, a college education, that is, while we were in the United States Air Force, and afterwards as well. And he already mentioned what happened after that in terms of traveling overseas, and moving to New Haven, Connecticut, and onward to California. So I'm very grateful for what has happened to us in terms of working for Islam in the United States and continually striving forward to do that as well.
So alhamdulillah, I was asked by one of the leaders of the FIST, Islamic the Foundation for Islamic Scholarship and Teaching to help assist in leading an Umrah expedition that will be comprised primarily of converts, or people working on the front lines in the inner cities and poor neighborhoods who never had an opportunity to go to Umrah. And so that was a tremendous calling. I refused many offers. My wife can testify to that. I won't name those who have been turned down. But when, you have an opportunity to work with folks and assist folks who've pretty much traveled the same path you've traveled, and you can understand their struggles and understand why they might necessarily not have the resources to make the Umrah independently or the Hajj, then it's a blessed calling. And so I got involved with it, and it's truly been a blessed journey, because you're with people who, they haven't seen the Kaaba before. It's not like you're going with a group and everyone's been 2 or 3 or 4 times. So everyone's in tears, and I can honestly say it was probably more tears I shed upon seeing the Kaaba than since my original Hajj in 1979. So it was very powerful. As I never shed so many tears departing from Medina, and I think one of the reasons for that is just the energy and the nature of the group itself, that there was such a passionate, appreciative moment, those special moments, and to be a part of that is contagious. So I caught it too, and may Allah bless the fist to continue to exist. Well said.
The biggest moment for me was to be close to the Prophet ﷺ and to visualize the struggle that they had to establish Islam in this land. And I could, it really impacted me to understand that to work to establish La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, in a land where that's rejected is a very tall order. And I just was empowered this time coming here. This isn't my first time to make Umrah, but I think being older and experiencing the transition of history in our country, America, and being a part of that transition from a religious aspect, but a religious aspect that's encompassing of every aspect of society. So, and to just be empowered was just really tremendous for me, because I felt that I received an opening that it's all good, as we say, and that we keep struggling just like they did. And then in the end, the truth of Allah will manifest, and the possibilities for the eradication of racism and materialism and all the other negative isms that are destroying our society and, impacting the world in other aspects, can be eradicated. I'm not talking from a political aspect, I'm talking from a spiritual aspect, because I know sometimes we, coming out of activism too, we look at things in a very skewed way, but these are powerful divine forces and at hand, and we have to take hold of that. Secondly, the Kaaba being a part of the experiencing of what Prophet Ibrahim as well had to endure in terms of establishing the first house of worship for mankind, which is encompassing, which is very powerful when you look at it, because there's nothing else like this in any other faith, and to show that we are the seal of the community. That's it. And whether we have these forces now that are trying to extinguish that light, the light of Allah, and the message of the Prophet ﷺ, as well as part of that light, is alive and well. And it's our purpose and our goal and mission to continue that legacy and to continue this work. And alhamdulillah, I feel invigorated. I feel fulfilled as well. And I don't have to, I never doubt it. But what I'm saying is that just to be empowered more, that's what happened to me, is that this is good, and I'm okay, and have those ups and down moments is normal as a human being, because we're human, and so we do get frustrated, we do get angry. And I know in my case, I have an issue with patience. It's one of my biggest struggles. And so one thing you learn is patience here, because you're dealing with so many different people and experiences and levels of education and knowledge. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I really was so happy to see so many young people here this year, which is a very good sign for us, because that's one of our levels of patience. We hope that our young people, continue this work, because in a very high, impactful way, because right now they're so distracted with media, social media, I meant to say, sorry, and that we never had that, at their ages. So this is very good to see, and how they understand that they do have a mission, and they're ready to carry that mission. So I pray that we could lead them when we go back, and that we can impact them in a way that we've never been really impacted, because we didn't have that type of leadership that they have today, alhamdulillah. And that we understand that the Quran is the final book, and we have to learn and study more, and we have to, put the words in the book into action, and more now than ever, as I mentioned earlier, because there is a darkness that's permeating, but that darkness will never, ever extinguish the light of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This particular Umrah had many highlights, and most of them are related to the dhikr. So, beginning in Medina, I think, there was so much salawat on the Prophet, coming to the masjid, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, coming to the masjid, sitting in the masjid, going back and forth to the masjid, walking through the streets. It was all Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. And I think that reinforced the connection that made it particularly difficult to leave. And that, as I mentioned previously, led to many, many tears being shed, and also being able to finish a khatam of Quran in the Masjid al-Nabawi, to the talbiyah from Mecca to Medina to Mecca, to every single mile from the Masjid for Ihram, Dhul Hulayfa Masjid, all the way to Mecca to make the talbiyah. It was unprecedented for me personally, and it was very powerful. And that's another milestone, pun intended, to just go that distance and to make the talbiyah, responding to that ancient Abrahamic call. Every mile, every kilometer was very, very special. And to be able to make the du'as coming into the city, as you get to the gate and get deeper into the city, arriving at the Kaaba. So that was very special. And then, as I mentioned earlier, just have that opportunity to be with a group that was a small group, relatively speaking. It's not 150, 200 people, but 25 people or so, and to be able to move in unison from beginning to end, not losing a single person of the group. Even there's some elderly people, but everyone, every step of the way, staying together throughout the tawaf. Staying together, and just the men running and then slowing down at the making the sa'i, staying together to pray at the maqam of Ibrahim. And so going together to get our heads cut for the men, that was very, very moving, because usually you don't you're not able to keep the entire group together. So that was also very moving. I think that the hearts were united in a way that made it conducive for them and easier for them to stay together. فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. That Allah put your hearts together and you became by His leave brothers and sisters. So those were some highlights of this Umrah. May Allah Ta'ala bless the organizers and bless yourself for taking the time to capture some of the light. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillah. You know, I've been married to my wife for 43 years, and there's very few significant trips we haven't taken together. So this Umrah is no exception. All the previous ones were together. The Hajj was together. And so the significance is maintaining the family tradition in this particular Umrah. So may Allah give all couples tawfiq to roll as a couple. Alhamdulillah. So Allah, as they say, safaru yusfiru an akhlaqi rijal. That travel reveals the character of men. And so you could look at that two ways. Like if a guy is alone, his character will be exposed. Like, does he have this particular weakness or propensity? But also, it takes a certain type of character to make sure that your spouse is there for various reasons. And so you could look at that two different ways. And so there's a degree of patience required. Sometimes it's a lot more convenient to do things alone. And there is a patience that comes in dealing with the responsibility, or the reality of there's someone else with you to consider. If I'm alone, I'm just running out the room. I'm throwing my clothes on and buttoning my shirt in the elevator. But I got to slow down. And so patience is a great character trait. And so I think that there are other kinds of other ways we could understand that expression that we mentioned a little earlier. As-safaru yusfiru an akhlaqi rijal. That character, travel reveals the character of men. So traveling with the woman is another way that your character is tested in different kinds of ways. But alhamdulillah. Even a lot of people have gotten sick, right? Couples. If you're alone, then if your wife got sick or your husband got sick, if you were alone, you wouldn't have to worry about it. So now you got to nurse and make sure everything's all right, check in. So you can't just sit in the masjid after the janazah. You got to run back to the room, see if your spouse is all right. So there are certain benefits that comes through that, because marriage has its challenges, and marriage definitely tests a person's character. And so traveling a great distance and visiting sacred sites and doing that as a couple definitely has certain aspects that manifest the character of people.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. No, just to reiterate, they were saying, no, it's really a blessing to have a husband, first of all, and to be able to make Umrah together. That in itself is a blessing. And then number two, in aspects of today of respecting male companionship. I'm looking at it from another angle. Sometimes I think today that's being a little bit skewed. The fact that you have your husband there as a protection measure, and as a guide and as a leader. I think women today, maybe I'm looking more from a Western concept of being independent, which I am. But you leave the room open to allow your husband to be your husband, to be your light, your guide. And sometimes that gets tested when you have independent personality too, because you could do certain things and this and that, and you have this privilege, I would say, because you're able to drive a car, for example. You're able to do certain things. When you come here, it's somewhat restricted a little bit at times, and so you need your husband to be there for you and to see the importance of that is really great, because I think sometimes in the West that falls short, because we have the ability to do certain things that maybe sisters do not have here. And I'm not talking in a negative light. I'm just saying there's economic differences, there's social differences. And so being together with your husband is so appreciated even more in an environment where you don't have those privileges to that extent. Alhamdulillah. And just to see that it's okay. It's just normal, to respect your husband and to depend on him to make the Torah. Because if you fall down, you're in big trouble. Right? But alhamdulillah, I'm making a joke out of this, but alhamdulillah, I had to lighten the mood a little bit. But to me, the importance of male leadership, is really manifested here, at Umrah, to me. And I think that's so important, for young couples today to work together, whatever you do, and to overcome your shortcomings, and that we have guidelines to do that. Alhamdulillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, I think that it's proper and fitting that we should thank the Foundation for Islamic Scholarship and Teaching for making this Umrah possible for the people it made it possible for, because I know that their mission is slightly different, but they made a conscious effort to change that mission to a certain extent to facilitate this journey, and I think it was a blessed decision, and it will lead to many good openings for this foundation, the fist. So all power to the fist.
Yes, and I second that emotion. And to all the ladies who always complain about they never get an opportunity, FIST allowed the opportunity for unmarried sisters or divorcees to attend this year, which is really, incredible. And may Allah bless them to continue the work. And we're so happy to have this, because like Imam Zaid said, we've been married 43 years, we've been Muslim over 30, and we didn't have this type of organization. So this is the beginning of many good things to come, and we're grateful and thankful for the FIST.